Greetings from India. So in this tutorial I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the smart grid layouts. To install it you can add a new plugin. Just search for smart grid and you should see it as the first option that it brings up, and I've already installed it and I've already activated it. So once you have that, you can activate the plugin. You can actually go across to the contact forms dashboard. You can add a new form, and you'll see that the plugin actually gives you a much different form editor. By default, you get this grid user interface editing, where you can split your form design in terms of rows and columns. In addition to this grid UI, you also have an HTML editor, which gives you a color syntax highlight, making it a lot easier to create and maintain complex forms. However, if you have an existing form, here I have a form, no, not this one, sorry. Yes, here I have a form that I created with the Contact Form 7 plugin without this extension installed. If you have existing forms, you will notice that the grid editor is missing. And the reason why the grid editor is missing is simply because the HTML structure required to display a form in a grid layout is missing. It is a much more complex HTML layout, and as a result you can only edit existing forms in the HTML editor. When you create a new form, the plugin will create automatically a Contact Us form like the Contact Form 7 plugin, but the form design is a two-column design with the usual name and contact details required, and the possibility for a user to leave a message. And this form, which you can see here in the front end, is a much more compact layout, as you can see. That is one advantage. The other advantage is that when viewed on a mobile screen, the form is responsive and will actually collapse into a single column form, making it easier to fill the form in on a mobile screen, on a smaller screen. Now, if you need to start a new form, what you can do is you can simply clear the content of the HTML editor as such, and when you return to the grid, automatically you are set up with a single row and a single column. You can actually add some rows to this default form by simply adding these using the plus sign here, and you can add as many rows as required. You can subsequently delete rows as well, and the other thing is you can actually interchange rows. So say for example you had started maybe some field here, and you realized this should be the name, and the name should really be coming at the top of your form. Let's say your name. Let's have your name here, right? Insert, and now you realize actually this should really be the first row of your form. You can simply drag and drop this row over here, and now your name is appearing at the top of it. Similarly, you can actually split a given row into multiple columns. So by pressing the plus sign on the column controls here, you can actually divide your row into multiple columns. You can go up to as many as 12 columns in a given row. That is the maximum division that this interface allows you to do. And similarly, you can also delete these. Let's say here you had a phone field. Let's put a phone number, your phone, insert tag, and if you realize that actually you wanted this field to appear at the beginning of the row, then again you can simply drag and drop this column over to this side. If you were to also split this into two columns, and you realize you actually wanted the phone number to appear on the right side of the name, you could actually make some space here by deleting this column and then simply dragging this column over to this side. The drag and drop facility is pretty limited. It's fine for swapping rows around, but for example, it's not possible to take an entire row and stick it inside another one, nor is it possible to take an existing column which is filling up the entire row and try and fit it here, for example. You actually need to make enough space within the row to actually accept a new column in here. If there's not enough space for an additional column, then it will not allow you to actually drag and drop it here. Now, what you can also do is you can resize columns. So here this is a quarter of the width, and if you want to make it half the width, you can resize this column. You can offset the column, so you can actually say that you want the offset to be half, or you could say an offset of a quarter, for example, sorry, that's resizing to 3/4. That's not what I want to do. I want a half width, but I want the offset to be 1/4, and that would actually center this column within this row. As you can see, this is a half width and it's a quarter offset, so obviously the additional space here is a quarter as well. Now, in addition to this, when you are designing a very large form, the HTML can become pretty quickly overwhelming. You can have a lot of structure and inner structure that can create multiple HTML tags in the HTML source, and this source can quickly grow to be quite overwhelming, and therefore make it difficult to actually manage. And in order to actually navigate between a given cell and the corresponding HTML structure, there is a handy little control here on the top of each cell that will automatically take you to the line that corresponds to that cell within your HTML structure.